I was polishing a row of crystal tumblers on the 73rd floor of Magnolia Spire, pretending not to exist, when I heard the line that lit the fuse. 50 million for a quiet little robot from the Far East, the man in the navy suit said, smiling at his reflection, like the city was applauding him. I kept my head down, counted my breaths, and let the towel keep moving, because in rooms like that, people like me don't get invited to look up. The place had that museum hush marble floors and a table so long you could land a model plane on it. Chicago stretched out beneath us like a map. Two men ran the show. Graham Pike with the mothership watch and the voice that fills elevators, Ethan Ward, with the younger smirk and the kind of sarcasm that thinks it's a personality. Across from them sat Dr. Tan Jianyu, founder of Orchid MedTech, calm as a Winter Lake black suit, hands-folded translator at his side. They said they were talking partnership, but the air said something else. The kind of deal where one side brings a handshake and the other side hides a knife under the napkin. And there I was, Darius the kitchen helper with a rolling cart, and a name tag you forget 3 seconds after you read it, topping off water like it mattered. What those two didn't know, and never even thought to ask, is that I spent 3 years in Sichuan on a scholarship, the kind of scholarship that arrives like a miracle when you grow up on the South Side and believe the world is a neighborhood until a plane ticket proves you wrong. My first month, I sounded like a GPS that was learning to feel. By year 3, I was dreaming in Mandarin and bargaining with taxi drivers over shortcuts. I went to a free campus lecture, because that's what you do when you're broke and curious, and a soft-spoken engineer from Shenzhen drew a surgical robot on a whiteboard that could cut cardiac mortality by half. That engineer was Dr. Tan. After the lecture, he stood with me under a flickering hallway light and said in Mandarin, "Curiosity outruns privilege when you feed it." And I taped that sentence to a wall with toothpaste because I couldn't afford tape. So yeah, I understood everything in that room, not just the words the translator repeated, but the tone, the quiet, the way silence gets used like a mirror to admire yourself. The microaggressions came dressed as courtesy. Graham stretched his syllables like rubber bands. Ethan made little jokes about Eastern stoicism and mystique. The translator kept things polite while the contract on the table hummed with hidden teeth. Then a small thing. Dr. Tan's right hand tapped the table, 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, 3. Not nerves, a pattern, a rhythm that said, "I'm awake in here." Our eyes met in the glass wall's reflection. Not a long look, barely a breeze, but it landed, and for a second I knew he knew. I did something reckless in a quiet way. Tripped an empty tray near the translator, crouched, and in Mandarin under my breath said, "Dr. Tan, my name is Darius. I understand everything. If you need help, say the words, open the bridge." He didn't turn, didn't blink, just tapped, 1, 2, 3, and said also in Mandarin, "Let's be patient." So I took my 2-minute staff break, that isn't a break at all, texted my sister Renee at the Metro Ledger, and whispered into the phone, "Do you know anyone in financial enforcement who hates Harbor and Pike on principle? I think I'm watching a pattern in real time." She didn't ask why I was whispering. "Give me 20, she said, "and D be smart." Back in the room, the temperature had dropped. Graham's jacket was off. Ethan was pacing, talking with his hands like volume could close a deal. "Time is money," Graham announced, and the mothership flashed. "We can wire today." The translator relayed Dr. Tan answered in Mandarin a little longer. Now the translator paused. Ethan rolled his eyes like patience was a prank. My phone buzzed under the linen of the cart. A link, then a PDF, then another. Complaints about deceptive clauses, timelines that lined up a little too neatly. Emails that said the quiet part almost out loud. Renee left a voice note. Two agencies looking into similar plays, nothing filed yet. But there's smoke, and the emails I've seen imply they prefer founders for whom English is a second language because outside counsel drops off. You okay? I stared at Graham's grin, at Ethan's theater, at Dr. Tan's folded hands, and texted back, "Lanterns lit." She sent a question mark. I slid the phone away. Some words you keep for your own courage. Graham leaned in. 50 million. Final. Take it, doctor, or the offer disappears when we stand. He did that little showman gesture with both palms like he was lifting the table by charisma. The translator turned doctor. Tan raised his hand polite and said in Mandarin, "Before I respond, I'd like to acknowledge the staff." Then he looked straight at me and said, "Young man, the bridge is open." If you've ever felt your whole life pivot on a sentence, you know what happened to my spine right then. I stepped out of the shadow line into the light falling across the marble, not fast, not grand, just enough to be seen, and I said, in a voice that surprised even me, "Gentlemen, before this goes any further, there are a few things you should know." Ethan laughed. "The coffee guy is going to advise us." Yeah, that happened. But I looked at Dr. Tan, he gave me a small nod, and the translator quietly capped her pen. "First," I said in Mandarin, and the glass room rang like a bell. "Dr. Tan understands everything that has been said here. Every joke, every time you stretched your words like you were talking to a child." Then I switched to English and kept going. "Second, I'm not just the coffee guy. My name is Darius Cole. I studied mechanical systems in Sichuan for 3 years. I speak Mandarin. I know what orchids work means for the people who are told to wait for care they can't afford. And third is the reason you won't be making any offer today." I paired my phone to the screen with the same hands that had poured 40 cups that morning, and the wall filled with a header that looked very official because it was. Complaints redacted names, dates that shadowed Harbor and Pike's own press releases, and then a snippet I read out loud so no one could pretend they missed it. It is more efficient to negotiate with founders for whom English is a second language because transaction speed improves when outside counsel is minimized. Ethan lost all his color. Graham's face did the thing confident men's faces do when they realize the set is cardboard. Tan stood, and for the first time all morning, he spoke English, not accented in a way anyone could weaponize, just calm and Midwestern flat. "Gentlemen, I believe we have a different conversation now." Graham pivoted to process. "This is out of line, these are unverified." I shook my head. "My sister's sending originals to the AG's Financial Crimes Unit and the Exchange Commission. Now, I'm a messenger and a witness." And Ethan tried the spy angle. "You brought a plant." And Dr. Tan didn't even look at him when he said, "I brought tea. You brought your patterns." Graham reached for money, like money is a fire hose. "We can bump the number at equity, we want you to feel respected." And Dr. Tan gave him a small sad smile and said, "Respect is not a tip you add at the end. It is the price of admission." No chairs flew, no voices broke glass. It was quieter than that. The kind of silence where you can hear the AC hum and the wind slide along the windows. "This meeting is concluded," Dr. Tan said, then turned to me in Mandarin. "You were brave, Darius. Bravery is a bridge, people walk across it, or they burn on the wrong side." And he offered his hand. You know what I mean when I say it felt like crossing a border without moving. Graham and Ethan walked out together, jaws tight, posture, smaller apples in the bowl, still untouched. 6 months later, I had an office on a floor with no pretentious name and a view of a river that folds back on itself like a silver ribbon. My badge says Vice President of Cross-Market Strategy, Orchid MedTech, North America, which is a mouthful, but the coffee in our kitchen doesn't taste like sadness, and nobody slows their syllables at me. Investigations aren't fast. Headlines lag behind harm, but pressure builds where patterns repeat. Ask any damn doctors. Tan started the Bridge Initiative fellowships for kids like me, who know 2 languages and are told to use one at a time, and Renee wrote a series that got picked up everywhere. She taped a note to her desk that says, "A fact is a friend that shows up on time." People ask if I'm proud, and I say yes, but not with drum beats. I'm proud like you're proud. A scar healed straight because you listened to someone who knew better. Here's the part I don't lead with, but it's true. After that meeting, when my hands finally shook because the adrenaline bill came due, I ate one of those perfect green apples from the bowl tart, and loud, and I decided if I ever stand in a room I used to serve, I'll always eat the apple. I'll always take the thing meant for show and put it to work. And the story doesn't stop at credits. 2 weeks ago, a lab in Columbus emailed us with a contract that felt sticky. Founder's English is good, but not native. We flew him in made rice in the office kitchen because he missed home, walked every clause until his shoulders dropped. He asked, "Is it always like this?" And I told him the truth. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. We're trying to make it less like this every time we show up prepared. So tell me, was Dr. Tan's silence smart strategy or manipulation? Did Graham and Ethan get what they deserved, or did the punishment outpace the crime? Have you ever been in a room where language felt like a wall and you figured out how to build a door? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe if you believe justice starts with listening and ends with receipts. And if you've got a story like mine, the bridge is open.